Pac-12 Network.
You guys are hot.
Let's talk everything Pac-12 on the Rock and Manute Show on Fox Sports 910.
You win.
Hey, everybody, welcome back in. Rock and Manute with Jimmy B, Fox Sports 910. We're hanging out Camelback at the Twin Peaks Lodge. It's a great day to be at Twin Peaks. It's awesome here right now, and we have NFL football for you tonight. It is Detroit at Green Bay. We're going to do college football right now because Pac-12 Network play-by-play broadcaster Ted Robinson is our guest. Ted, welcome as always, kid. It's Jimmy B and Manute. Now, what a lot of people may have heard on this show is that Ted is an alumnus of Notre Dame.
Oh, he's a Golden Domer.
Yeah,
yes,
he is. Yeah. So, Ted, what the hell happened last weekend?
I'm sorry, Ted. I did not prompt him at all.
Do you know how hard it is for me to hear that? I mentioned Chip Trainum last week, and now this week I listened to that clip again, and the son of a gun scored the touchdown on the last play. Of course, the fact there should have been a defender there, an 11th defender, that's just a detail apparently. But, I mean, could you imagine, guys, Michael Jordan coming out of a timeout and walking on the court when they're playing the Lakers, and there's only 4 guys, and Michael go, that's all right, I got it. We don't need a 5th guy. Hey, come on.
You know, Ted, I hate to tell you this, but you're one of the first guys I thought of.
Yep.
I didn't see the lineman in the 3 technique. A down defensive lineman was missing. There's this gap, and they threw the first play. I'm like, why would you throw? There was nobody there, and then they finally figured out.
Amen.
There's another guy that.
Well, here's what's amazing, guys. No, if you go back, and I was doing the Arizona-Stanford game, so I had the final minutes of the Notre Dame game on in our booth on a small screen. I couldn't really tell.
Right.
I come home and watch the tape, and there's timeout. Notre Dame has 11 players on the field. They take a defensive timeout with 7 seconds. They come out of their own timeout with only 10 people, and Ohio State clearly doesn't know it. They run a rollout play to the right.
Yeah, they did.
And then so now the second play where Notre Dame can freely run a guy on the field, you're allowed to play with 11. It's not a substitution. so they could run a guy on the field. And only Ohio State's coaches can answer the question, but clearly they knew because they ran right at where the 11th guy was going to be. So but it's a fair. I'm being honest, Manute. You helped me. Manute, you played.
Yep.
My point is, it's obviously a coaching failure, a structural failure. Right. But at some point, any one of those 10 defenders could jump up and down and scream and go, "Wait a minute, we're missing a guy." Are players being taught to be so robotic that they're only worried about their assignment and not what's around them? That's what I'm concerned about.
Well, Ted, you bring up a great point because the Mac backer or the Mike backer is always responsible to make sure you got 11 guys on the field or 11 guys in the huddle. That's your responsibility. It's like the QB on offense. So always make sure I got all personnel, 11 guys. But Ted, here's the thing. Run somebody out, take an offside to stop the clock. Okay, get half the distance. So you go from the 1 yard line to the half-yard line. Take the penalty, get your guy out there. Who knows what can happen at that point? Maybe you put 6 guys down at the line of scrimmage and you stop them. Maybe a backer jumps over and hits Chip Trainum in the backfield. I don't know, but I mean, Freeman's aloofness, I'm sorry, Ted, aloofness in the post-game presser drove me nuts on top of it.
Hey, look, the absolute worst option was the one they played with, to play with 10. Anything was them playing with 10. He finally, by Monday, he owned up to it. And I'm going to chalk that up to being a 35-year-old guy that's never been through this before. He finally did, because he needed to own up to it. It's a massive structural failure of, that it goes probably 5 layers deep within your organization, but he's ultimately accountable for it. I'm glad he finally owned up to it and took ownership of what was a disastrous mistake. So
Ted,
the sad part was it was a lousy ending to a really good football game.
Oh my God! and just so you know, the Rock and Manute and Jimmy B, we are the Dr. Phils of Sports Talk Radio. That you can come on here anytime and vent, sit back, and just kind of let it all around. We're here to listen to you, Ted.
Yeah.
Oh man, well. Hey, here's the other thing, guys. Look, I'm coming down to Tucson tomorrow for the U of A game with Washington. But, USC and Colorado are playing Saturday at 9 a.m.
Yep.
And you know what? USC signed off on it. They're fine with it. And I think John Wilner, the great writer from San Jose, was the guy that he came up with this idea years back. and he should be credited for this because it was the kind of thinking that if more people in this conference had thought and willing to think creatively and aggressively could have saved this conference from the self-destruction. Had they been willing to say, now here we go, it's 9 a.m. When it first came out, people were going, oh my God, we can't play at 9 a.m. And of course, in Boulder, I understand it's 10 a.m. I get that.
Yes.
Yep.
But still, the point is, it's way out of the box, and I think it's great. And the fact that Lincoln Riley signed off to do this with no problem shows me that it was an idea. It's an idea that it's going to keep going.
I agree with that statement, but don't you find it ironic that with the dissolve of the Pac-12 and this year the Pac-12 is the strongest conference in college football?
Well, of course. I mean, it's horrible. That's why I'm so frustrated, because if people had been willing to think, if we had any leadership in this conference willing to think aggressively and creatively, yeah, this football season could have changed the dynamic. But it's just, it's over with.
Right.
I'm just saying, to me, the point I'm making is that this weekend highlights that aggressive, creative thinking, especially in a place like ours out here where football isn't the same as it is in the SEC. That's what you need out here. And sadly, we have almost none of that from the universities we're talking about.
I got to tell you what, with you coming in, by the way, it's going to be cooling down to 90 degrees.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
And by kickoff, it might be 82. It's chilly. It's sweater weather for us out here in Phoenix, and then down there in Tucson, it's always about 10 degrees cooler. Just so pack a warm sweater if you have to there, big fella, on top of it. You look at Phoenix and this Washington team. Not that they're catching a lot of us off guard, but all the national pundits are like, wow, these guys are the real deal. At what point, covering this team the last couple of years with Phoenix at quarterback, or Penix at quarterback, did you see something a little special that you would probably, from your standpoint, see this year moving forward?
Yeah, look, 2 years ago it was a disaster. It was the Jimmy Lake disaster, blah, blah, blah. Now here we are. Last year, it's all new. And we had some exposure to Kalen DeBoer, the coach, and his coordinators at Fresno State. They had that well-known game in 2021 where they beat UCLA at the Rose Bowl, and Jake Hayner, the quarterback, went off. So we
3 minutes
collectively, our crew, Kalen DeBoer had a chance to be a good hire. None of us knew anything about Michael Penix. And when you saw him play last year, you went, wow, this is we were on a call with Kalen DeBoer this afternoon, and I asked him the question because watching Michael Penix as a left-handed quarterback from about 1,000 years ago, which I was, every throw to me was an effort. Michael Penix looks like he's just lobbing the ball, and he's throwing 50-yard darts. Mm-hmm. I mean, he is the most effort, like it's kind of Manuch-like. He's the most effortless thrower you could ever imagine. And I'm going to tell you the other thing I've come to hear from some people from within is that the offensive coordinator there is brilliant. Ryan Grubb, his name. I mean, I know they talked about it last week on the game that Alabama looked into hiring him. He's good. He's really good. So their scheme is strong. And basically, I was on the phone with this morning as well with Brendan Carroll, the OC at U of A.
2 minutes.
And I said, do you feel like when you're playing a game like Washington, you have to start with 30? And your plan has to be that I need to start the game at 30 points because I'm not going to hold them under 30. Right?
Sure.
I mean, that's how scary it is when you play USC, when you play Washington, really when you play Oregon right now.
Yeah.
Is you have to think that way.
Let me fire this at you then, since you just referenced the USC-Colorado game, and it's a big play on Fox. The thing that I want to ask you is, does the Buffaloes make it a better game against USC because they're on their home field than they did against Oregon?
Well, I think, yeah, Jimmy, I think you have to say definitely they'll be better. It's going to be home. It's going to be a charged crowd and all of that. Yeah, that plays into college athletics is going to work. And it's going to be puzzling because,
1 minute.
I mean, I saw them live twice. They're good.
Yeah.
But they haven't played anybody of note yet. And Arizona State played them tough last Saturday.
Yep.
That's a game I did watch a fair bit of it. And they played them tough. So, this USC this will be the first team with a winning record they've played. So I can't see this being anything akin to what Colorado experienced at Oregon last Saturday.
It's always good, pal, when we catch up with you. And once again, we just couldn't help but reference the Fighting Irish and their struggles.
We just wanted you to vent, Ted,
Yes,
just to get
we
it off
did.
your chest, so that you're not growling. That you're not growling at the dog over at the house, for crying out loud.
Thank you. Plus, hey, look, it gave me a chance to call Michael Penix a left-handed Minuch. And
You're the best, pal. Thank you.
thanks, guys.
See ya. There you go. Ted Robinson. He'll be working the Arizona-Washington game